A court in the Republic of Benin has dismissed proceedings relating to deaths from the violence recorded during the West African country's parliamentary elections, which were held in April 2018 without the country's opposition party. The aftermath of the vote had been bloody, with some persons killed in Cotonou and others in other parts of the country.
In addition to justice, the Beninese parliament passed a law on Thursday granting amnesty for the perpetrators of violence committed during its April post-election demonstrations, which killed around 10 people with gunshots across the country. This amnesty law is part of the recommendations proposed by a committee of experts following the political dialogue called for by the head of state and held in early October without the main opposition parties. Amnesty International had warned the authorities to refrain from passing an amnesty law that would, according to the NGO, prevent any prosecution of persons suspected of human rights violations and abuses during the period of contestation of the parliamentary elections, which, for the moment, is unlikely to happen, seen according to the justice system that investigated the deaths of Cotonou, Parakou, and Sèvres. It is impossible to find the perpetrators of these crimes.
Indeed, the right questions there. And with us this morning is Julien Rousseau. Julien is still with us. Julien, a warm welcome to you again. What is the feeling like, especially after the Beninese courts dismissed the case for justice in the country's bloody post-legislative elections of April 2018?
Si je vais vous donner mon sentiment, je serais bien obligé de me mettre dans la peau, disons, des Béninois.
If I'm going to give you my feeling, I would be obliged to put myself in the shoes of the Beninese citizens who have lost relatives in these events. It will surely be a feeling of denial of justice. It is the feeling that there is no way we can get justice where judiciary has not been able to meet a citizen's need for justice. It is still surprising that for a case so serious where there have been deaths and enormous damage that we have not been able to go there and deal with it. You see, in relation to it, on the same day the decision comes out and continues to circulate, there is an amnesty law in Parliament that is being passed to grant amnesty to all those who have been involved, who have been arrested and put in prison. It should be noted that for me as a citizen, this is a new situation, a context that I do not understand, a decision that I have difficulty understanding.
Et qu'on a mis en prison. Donc, signalons que pour le citoyen que tu, ça fait une situation inédite, un contexte que je ne comprends pas, une décision que j'ai du mal à cerner.
Mr. Julien Rousseau, looking closely at the lack of justice and the amnesty for the unidentified perpetrators of these crimes, several observers agree that the Beninese authorities are doing everything they can to bury this case. What do you think? Those who will think it, citizens or non-citizens, have a reason for it. And the government will not be able to find reasons to get rid of it. And that is what bothers us. Since we've witnessed what happened, we know that there have been videos circulated. We know that if we even want to settle the issue through an amnesty law, if the decision is made before the law is made, somewhere it creates an environment that for many citizens may or may not be reassuring. They have the means, the government that is, the state has the means to carry out investigations. If the state tells us a few months later that despite the means at their disposal they have not been able to establish responsibilities, it is still a serious admission for justice and for the state.
Environ quelques mois après que, malgré les moyens qu'ils ont, ils n'ont pas pu établir les responsabilités, et c'est quand même un aveu grave pour la justice et pour l'État.
So, Julien, do you trust the authorities or do you have misconceptions?
Ce que nous savons
What we know in this case is that we are certain of the victims. I was personally on the ground on election day and the days before the election to see. So there are no fake stories. I also know that until now the authorities have not been able to officially acknowledge that there have been victims. So that is why it is not surprising that a decision like this one comes to say that we cannot establish responsibilities. But if we have not already recognized that there have been victims and that they have been victims because of this, it will already be difficult for the justice system to find the perpetrators. So it is a concern for any citizen who might find themselves in a similar situation one day and unable to seek justice.
Et donc, c'est de l'inquiétude pour tout citoyen qui est tenté un jour de retrouver en situation et devoir solliciter la justice.